welcome back to another episode of Are You Not Entertained? And perhaps our last episode of Are You Not Entertained, because we don't want to become Man City fans. Well, we do in a way, but we can't. We have to stick with Spurs. So it could well be our last one. The chaps are back. Peter, Ollie, how are you? How are you feeling? Are you excited, or are you more willing to get things off your chest more than anything? Well said, boys. Let's get it.
I'm excited for the Euros.
This is
season's done. The season's done months ago, but yeah.
Very
nice to be back with you boys.
I was saying.
I was hoping we'd have a manager in, and then I could focus on the Euros. But I can't do that because we don't have a manager.
Well, I think a lot of the players and the club surely were hoping the same, but yeah, it's just been an absolute mess. But we'll come to the manager mess at the end. The plan for the episode for the people at home is that we are going to kind of go through 5 key moments or 5 key periods of the season as well. Moments where we thought things perhaps went well, moments when things really fell apart, and mostly it's problematic. As everyone knows, it wasn't a great season in the slightest, to be fair, and to be at Spurs. And that's where we'll go into the mess of it as well, because all of that is in reaction to it. But yeah, we'll go into the moment. So season started pretty well. So who better to come during the positive times than our positive man, Ollie? So Ollie, the season started pretty well. We were flying at one point. I genuinely started to believe there was a certain period when I was going, we're going to win the league, and the hope will kill you. So tell us a little bit about that period. We'll take us back to the golden era, the golden days.
I think that was one of the only times of the season that I was very active in like the group chat talking about Tottenham in a positive light, telling my friends, we're going to Anfield. This is a title decider. Saying that these things that whoever wins this, it's going to set up for the title, and looking towards that type of thing, because like at that time Liverpool were playing okay, and they were sort of top of the league. We were top of the league. And then so I'm going to bit myself there. Was back before that point, and we'll talk about when we beat United 6-1 and beat Man City 2-0 as well, because they were excellent times of the season, which led to us feeling like we could be in with the title chat and whatnot. But yeah, no, they were sort of. We were thinking it's Mourinho's second season properly, and he's got a grip of the players. He's got into their heads. We're getting a good. We're winning. We're not winning pretty, but we're winning. Do we care how we play? Not really. We keep winning games, keep nicking results. Kane and Son were absolutely flying, like goals, assists every single game. Everything looked really, really good, and it looked like Mourinho had actually cracked it. And what happened to him at United was because of them, not because of Mourinho himself. We now know that wasn't the case, but at the time, that is how we all felt. I think we were really, really in a good place. But yeah,
even the Southampton game. And
yeah,
I think another part of it is, and we'll go through kind of the trigger and changes in Mourinho's brain a bit, as well as the players, because that Southampton game, we buried them 5-2, but we left gaps. But I was absolutely fine with it, because we let our more attacking players stay higher. But then that just completely went away as the season went on. It was like Mourinho, obviously in the training ground, you've got to expect that they were being told to do a lot more defensive work. There were definitely points where Sonny it became difficult for Sonny to be as good into the counter-attacking threat, because he was having to help his fullback out so often. And I thought that Southampton game, I loved how we were playing. I thought Mourinho had really triggered something different. He was trying to show that you could play that defensive football and counter-attacking, but also be exciting, because if there are goals, it is exciting. But yeah, I think, to be honest, we should probably come away from the positivity.
Even in that game afterwards, you still saw that weird thing where you feel like, why are you rubbing people up the wrong way for no reason? Like when Sonny had just scored 4, and as he's walking past, Mourinho just leans in and goes, Harry Kane was man of the match. You think, why do it? Like, you could just walk past, said nothing, and Sonny wouldn't have taken it in a bad way. But for us watching on, it was like, what are you doing? So stupid, like
unnecessary.
Yeah, I forgot about
exactly.
I think you said at the time, it achieved literally nothing. Like, it wasn't funny. No one reacted to it positively. Sonny just sort of awkwardly smiled. It didn't give Kane.
He's obviously never watched Match of the Day when Spurs have won, and literally every week is, let's do a little segment on Harry Kane. Like, just let someone else have a little moment of glory. Stupid.
So pointless. No, totally agree. But that's come on then, Pete. You've already started. You're already riled up. Beast. So let's get into our next moment. So our next sort of key moment where we spoke obviously off camera chaps and we decided where we thought things swung and what were big points in the season was Liverpool away. Why do you think this was such a big moment, and what do you think was the effect of it?
To be honest, it wasn't even in my list of things. When I came up with a list of things, I didn't have it on there because I was looking back at them going 2-1 away to Liverpool is something that can happen to us any year. It can happen to anyone. And actually it was Ollie that pointed it out. So I'm going to throw it straight back to Ollie because I feel like I'll be stealing his thunder because he was the one that brought it up, not me. So I do agree with him. Wholeheartedly, I agree with him, but it was his point, and I feel like he should be allowed to make it.
Why, thank you, Peter. I appreciate that. That's very nice. No, I mean, for me, like, that game kind of, I did talk about it earlier, but it kind of, we felt like we were actually in the conversation where you could talk about the league and the title, and we'd been top of the league for a couple of weeks, and Liverpool were playing all right, but you think you could definitely get at them. They'd lost Van Dijk, our attack was flying. You're going to Anfield, a place we've never won. If we win here, that's going to set us up for the rest of the season, give us so much confidence and be so like full of it and whatnot. And we actually played really well and lost. I remember sort of watching the game and watching Liverpool. It didn't look like they were threatening that much. And then in the first half, it was fairly even. I think obviously we scored that ridiculous goal on the counter, like the last kick of the ball. But Liverpool had a lot of the ball, but I didn't think they were going to cause us too much issues in that sense. And the second half came out with a different animal. Like we were counting them, and then Bergwijn went through twice, missed both chances, and then we conceded in the last minute. And it was, to me, that
Kane had a big-headed chance as well, didn't he? I think
Kane missed a massive chance as well. You're right. And that game kind of just then it kind of set that tone of we've got to sit back all the time, and it just kind of grew from there. And I think there were some comments afterwards like Bergwijn missing the chances, and I think Mourinho said something, but not to blame. He said, I'm not blaming him, but if we score those, we win. And it's kind of like, okay, that's is that going to play on his mind? And we didn't really see much of Bergwijn after that. I don't remember rightly. And I just think that kind of really turned a little. If we had won that, I think we would have gone on and pushed on. The fact we lost it, and we then lost the next game to Leicester 2-0 in a really shit performance. And then it kind of just unravelled a little. Then we recovered a little bit, but then we kind of fell off again, as we come to talk about. But yeah, that game to me was massive in terms of, I think, had we won that, the players would have really bought into Mourinho. Okay, we can go to Anfield, sit in counter, win 2-1, 3-1, whatever. In fact, we lost, conceding to Firmino, who never scores, from a header, which is like ridiculous. And it was just, and then it turned out Liverpool then actually shit as well that year at Anfield. But yeah, that to me, that game was just so important in terms of how we then unravelled after that. And you kind of, that like, it put the doubt in every player's mind that we're not good enough. We can't win this. We're not going to be top four. We're not going to be this great team. And it just crashed after that.
I would flip it slightly as well and say that, in my opinion, Mourinho missed a trick massively with that game as well. If I remember rightly, didn't Liverpool lose a couple of games just after that with playing teams not that great who just went at them because they were so defensively fragile? We started that game pretty defensive. Like you say, we weren't great in the first half. Second half, we were a bit better. But we didn't really go there to attack them, which, yes, okay, Mourinho, you have this pragmatic style of play, but I think if he'd have shown that game that he was smart enough to say, right, this team are weak at the back, they're struggling, their confidence is low in terms of centre-halves, etc., let's go get at them, he would have shown another level of knowledge and understanding of the game that the players would have then reacted, okay, our gaffer can react to different games. He's not just doing this for keeping the same style for every single game, like not every single, I don't know what you want to call it. I was going to say like square pegs in round holes or whatever, but you just got to react to different things. I get that everyone says Mourinho is really careful, he's meticulous, he plans everything for each game, but it's pretty much the same, and then it's like little tweaks. It's not like Pep, for example, like doing something absolutely mental, which doesn't always work, by the way. You look at the Champions League final, etc. But he'll do something really, really wacky. It's completely different and switch up a game. And a lot of the time it works, whereas Mourinho's just kind of small changes. And yes, he is very careful. But yeah, I thought it was a huge trick in that game.
I think as well, like you've always said, Pete, when you're relying on players to defend and then have one or two shots and score them, it's so hard to do. And Bergwijn, an example of that, like he's not Harry Kane or such. So had either of those two probably had those chances, they probably do score. But you can't build a team to rely on that because it doesn't work. Which I think is unfortunately where we ended up under Mourinho.
Yeah, just as a pure.
And it ramps up the pressure, doesn't it? The pressure's so ramped up for Bergwijn to take those chances.
Yeah.
And then you say to him after the game, or you say to the media after the game, if he'd have scored those two chances, we'd have won. Yeah. So you then ramp up the pressure on him even more. And that's why people sink or swim under Mourinho. And I can see why so many people struggle with it, because not because they're weak of mind, but like that pressure is ramped up, like, and only certain people can take that sort of pressure or thrive under it. A lot of people don't. And that's why you get the mix and match of like who does well under him and who struggles under him. Yeah. And then you've got other side of the coin where he just completely becomes an arsehole and calls you out constantly, like he did to Luke Shaw, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's horrible to play in those kind of teams as well, because like you know, playing your way into a game becomes so difficult because you're barely touching it. Like how much easier it's going to be for your opponent who's controlling the play and having 60-70% of the possession to build themselves up and get their touch going compared to yourself, where it needs to be like, right, we're in, let's go. So I don't know. I think we've spoken a lot about different quotes that players have said, that managers have said, how football's changing, etc. And I'm glad to see the back of Mourinho, and we'll talk about that a bit more in a bit. But Pete, let's get you going.
That's where the rot started, Pete. Where do we end up?
There we go. So we kind of put down about Everton, Zagreb, Arsenal. The Everton one, John, you say why you thought it was in there, because I didn't mind that game, but I understand why you wanted to throw it in there.
I threw it in there on the back of, it felt to me, Mourinho going, I can change. I can be a new style of manager. Let's be open and expansive and let's play some attacking football. And it was just fucking carnage. It was awful. It was an exciting game, but for us, it was just, we were so bad in every department. Like, obviously, was it 5-4 in the end?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something ridiculous like that. And like, just how open we were, and some of the goals we conceded were diabolical. And I guess he was very much, we can't defend with these defenders, so let's attack. And it was worse. No, that's not true. It wasn't worse, because at least we were scoring goals, but it was just a shambles of a performance. It was like watching Sunday League football. It's like games that we've played in that are just full of goals because both sides go mental going forward but can't defend, and they have no tactical awareness. And I just thought the whole thing stank of like just being a joke, an absolute joke of a performance, a joke of a setup. And it almost felt kind of petty from him. It was almost like he was going, see, told you we can't play this kind of football. It's just mental. Like, it didn't make any sense to me. I just didn't enjoy it at all. It was laughable, and I feel like we are that massively at the minute as well. But that felt laughable for me as a club. People just looking at us going, "What is happening there?"
I actually remember enjoying that game. I remember watching it and just thinking it wasn't the Premier League. I know it was the FA Cup, so I very much enjoy the FA Cup, so I was up for that regardless. But I just remember thinking, we've really been playing dead football for however long. It's dull to watch. It's not exciting. The results haven't been coming. I've not been enjoying Mourinho. I've not been enjoying how the players go out and perform. And then we had a game like that where we bagged a bunch of goals. And even though we lost, I was like, do you know what? It felt a little bit like, I know this sounds pathetic and this is a problem that the fans, we do see it that way, but that was our Tottenham. I know that's the thing, because it's kind of like blaze of glory, but not quite.
It wasn't really, was it? I mean, we scored... Didn't Sanchez score? We scored from set pieces, scored scrappy goals. It wasn't like we were playing total football and scoring good goals. It was.
I remember we tried to play. We were more fluid. It was like Moore and Lamella were having decent games, and they were trying to make things happen. So I just felt like it was a bit more expansive.
So
I don't know. starting to actually see some football and goals from both.
That Everton game came in amongst the results where we lost 3-1 to Liverpool at home when they were awful. They were bad, like really bad, and we still lost to them.
Yeah.
We then lost to Brighton 1-0. We lost 1-0 to Chelsea, who were shit as well at the time. They'd just got Tuchel, I think. We then beat West Brom 2-0 in a crap game. Lost the Everton game. Then we lost to Man City. And then we lost to West Ham. So that game was great because it actually scored. But it was an awful time. That was an awful time.
But like, this is the thing, we say like go through all those teams, and that's what compounded how bad we were. Everyone's been bad. Everyone's been bad. We only finished what? How many points off top four? 4 or 5, so like 6 points. Nothing major at all.
4 points.
Abysmal, and we were not that far off the top 4, which is mental. Liverpool, shocking, and they finished 3rd. Is that right?
Yeah.
Ludicrous. Like how bad everyone's been. And yet still, you look at the Champions League final, English clubs is mental.
Do you know what hurt me was going? I know we can't always look back to when we were playing good football under Poch and we were pressing teams and battling at the top. But the amount of teams this season where you go, who Spurs got this weekend? You go, oh, nearly everyone. There was no one where I didn't, especially away from home, where I didn't go, that's 3 points. Whereas under Poch, you'd be fully expecting to win. And this season, and like you list the teams that you're reeling off that we lost to, like Brighton away. And I know that happened under Poch right at the end, but it's just suddenly every single game looked really hard on paper, and that should not be the case. And that sounds like I've got a bit of an ego about Spurs, and we just have the right to win these games. But we should be. You should be with the players that are on the pitch and the football that we used to play. You should be going out and beating these teams. And it was just so crap to watch. Like the amount of times we talked about it as well, didn't we? The amount of times where we'd go, all right, we started all right here. We've gone 1-0 up. And then you'd sit back. And you just saw it was coming from a mile off. Like it happened so many times.
And fitness being an issue became more real and real, didn't it? There was like rumbles of it. Ali Gold mentioned it a few times, a couple other reporters around Spurs. And it just become more and more apparent as the season went on. Not only like that mental deficiency, like you say, of retreating, but also just not having the legs to even try and press.
Try and get out,
Then Team Blue started to look leggy to the point of like passes being a bit slower and not zipping it about as much. It's like they could come out and play for 20 minutes and go, and that's what they wanted to do because they are good enough. And then it was like, we haven't got it left in us anymore. Yeah. We've got the lead. Let's retreat. We're also tired. We're tired mentally, physically, emotionally, probably because of a lot of the time as well. So, but we tagged into this zone, Everton, Zagreb, Arsenal. Ollie, talked to us about Zagreb because that was an absolute shit show.
Well, I don't really know where you start with that one. We won the first leg, didn't we, 2-0. And we just thought, job done. We'll go there, 1-0, 2-0 again, whatever. And as fans, you can think like that. And probably as players, most of the time, you probably think like that as well. But for whatever reason, not at any point in that game did we look like we were scoring or even trying to score. Or if we just scored one goal, problem solved, we'd gone through. And you would have been like, oh, that's lucky. But we couldn't even score. And it wasn't even like we missed chance after chance after chance. We just weren't creating anything. And it was just awful. I'm watching that and actually being embarrassed, like thinking, obviously football isn't the be all and end all, but you want a bit of respect for yourself. And you're just thinking, shit now, why do I bother? Like I don't want to talk about Spurs. Like not like it really matters. People giving you stick about it. And you're just like, do you know what? You're pretty bang on. And it's just it's a horrible feeling to feel like your football team is just awful. And it wasn't fun.
His hat-trick was unreal, by the way, though.
Oh yeah, he was calling, but he wasn't. Again, you watch it about the emotion. You look at the goals, and you just like. I think was it the third goal that he scored, and it was Aurier and Dombele, Sissoko, and someone else, Sanchez maybe, were around him, and they just ran. He was in the middle, and they was all like this. And he just shot and scored, and it was like, not what you could have done this. No, you just like go, and it was embarrassing. It was embarrassing to watch, and he just
bad.
Yeah, embarrassment is a big word, and like, to be fair, like you say, can knock your like self-esteem and your confidence because it is so linked to you. It's been like your football club's been a part of you as long as your family, really, or it's always been the entire time, your whole life. So it's like a lot of. I remember Souness saying he was talking about Spurs, and he was saying people think I give Tottenham a lot of stick. They're my first love, and I thought that's quite a good way to put it. Like your football club is almost your first love, your first relationship you find yourself in. It's really strange. But yes, it's to the point where when they are doing so bad, even though it's not you, it's nothing to do with you. You can't take personal pride from your team winning a title. You also can't take personal knocks from your team not doing well. But somehow you can't help but be that way. And we haven't had enough of the positives at the moment to make us enjoy our club to the point where I'm quite disliking them. It's like, again, put it to me, I am in a relationship. I'm starting to be quite resentful of my partner. She's always just being lazy at home, not really putting the work in. I still really care. She doesn't want to go to lunch with me. This is what it feels like with Spurs at the minute, a bit of that kind of scenario. But yeah, Zagreb was
bad.
I don't know. Joe Hart's post put it. Put in there.
I forgot about that.
I'd forgotten about that.
Oh, crap. That was bad. That was
again,
bad.
Everything in the club right now is like you said, embarrassing from top to bottom.
And it got worse.
Hart's whole point of coming in was to be like he's a leader and to show him how to win and be that positive influence. And then cocking up his social team and not even caring enough to check if we won the game.
So the game was 3-0 and assume we'd won 3-0.
You're barely even there to play. You can't even do the social media side of it. Come on.
That was incredible.
Someone got fired, surely. from Joe Hart's background team.
But you had that game, and then we had a chance in the North London derby to turn up and do something. And what happened, Pete?
Crumbled. That's not even true. They didn't even crumble. It felt like the Zagreb game. They just didn't even try. It was another one of those games where we went 1-0 up. And shout out to Lamela because it's probably the best goal I've ever seen in the North London derby. And it just was like I can forgive Zagreb almost because of you can't, but in terms of who it was against, it's like a nothing team. Like they used to be bigger in Europe than they are now, obviously, but to get yourself fired up for that game is very difficult when you're 2-0 up and you're coasting and you think it's done. But in a North London derby, there was just no excuse and there was nothing. There was no fight, no real leaders, it looked like. It was just soft. And for me, the worst Spurs performance I've seen in the North London derby. And I've seen us get tonked, but at least there was fight there or a little bit of battle. Whereas in that one, it was just roll over and let your tummies get rubbed. And it was just, again, it was embarrassing. It was another one of those ones where, and coming off the back of all those other results, it was almost like the final nail in the coffin at that time of me just going, give up with Spurs. I didn't watch for a few weeks after that, I don't think, because it was just, why? And you saying just like about being in that relationship and not having enough of the highs, and I was thinking, I'm not enjoying it. Like, why? We said it a couple of months ago, when something is that bad and makes you feel that shit, why do you keep doing it? Like, isn't it like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result? And I'm just watching Spurs play crap and lose and then doing it again the next week and feeling shit about myself because of it and thinking the next week it'll be different this week. We'll play good football this week. And it just didn't happen. It's just that period was so bad. So bad. And actually, it felt similar to the end of Poch's reign in that everything that felt just as poor. I remember the Brighton game where Lloris smashed his arm up, just going, I just give up. I just give up with this club. They're killing me inside.
Yeah, how are these things happening? It doesn't even make sense. No, you're right. That kind of coincided to the period where, well, for a start, we wasn't recording as much because wasn't enjoying it, didn't really want to fly the flag for the club because wasn't agreeing with a lot of the things that were happening, which leads us to the Mourinho sacking / Super League and nonsense. So, yeah, obviously very clever. We spoke about it before. Clever in terms of Levy going, there's an absolute shitstorm here. I want to get this guy out the door. Don't really want to give him a bonus if he wins the cup final. not that bothered about winning trophies also. And would just rather get him out the door as quick as I can. If he wins the cup, I might be able to sue me for wrongful dismissal. I've already decided I want to get rid of him. Okay, let's pull this all together. Let's get Mourinho out the door, and let's get the puppet Ryan Mason to go and do the interviews and the press conferences and say exactly what I tell him to say, because the club has a bit of a PR nightmare going on here. I don't even know where to start with this one, but let's just say Mourinho getting sacked. Ollie, what was your first reaction?
Didn't really care. It was, it really made you question the club as a whole, and not just Mourinho, because we knew that it wasn't working. Like we said, that the Arsenal game followed up by the Zagreb loss, and then I think we then went to play Villa. I think after that, and the players they're done. They were done. And Kettler said they're done. You couldn't come back from that. There was too much sort of like happened in terms of something must have gone on behind the scenes. There was a flare up, or people were just, there wasn't any kind of commitment or they're pulling in the same direction. It was all very, so him getting sacked wasn't, it was well, we tried. And I think even on the Amazon documentary, I think Levy even says, like, it's a gamble and the other worker, it won't. Fuck me, it did not work. Not one bit of it worked. But Mourinho has done one thing throughout his entire career, that's win a trophy. Win a trophy, beat Man City, and maybe you could look at some positive from the season. But you get rid of the most successful manager ever, arguably, 6, maybe less days before a cup final, in amongst the midst of an absolute PR disaster with the Super League. And I said to you, but I said to him, we don't win the cup final, I generally don't care what happens from here on out. I was interested in the cup final, and that's it. So as far as I'm concerned, the season ended on the 25th of April with the cup final, because I lost all interest. I barely watched a game, and that's unheard of for me. I watch every game. I put it on. Put some else on. Sarah would put some nails to go out and stuff. So, that. But Mourinho being sacked, that wasn't necessarily the catalyst of that. It was the club as a whole was just, and it still is, in a complete shambles. And yeah, I'm not even looking forward to the new season, to be totally honest.
No, agreed.
Going back to Mourinho, him being sacked had to happen. Too much bad things had happened. Too many people falling out. No, it was just too much happened. It had gone wrong. It didn't work.
I think all of us had got to the point where it was like, it's not enjoyable. It's obviously not working. No. It's constantly digging players out. It just happened as everyone said it was going to happen.
Yeah.
As United fans, we've been through this. This will happen. Get ready for it. And you just wanted to go, like, we've been so desperate to win things, and we sold our soul to the devil in a way with Mourinho, that we were so keen for it to happen that we just like, no. Even if that does happen, we get a trophy. We just need it. We need it that bad. So I kind of understood the decision, but like you say, to sack him just before the cup final
makes it worse. Is the poisonous old goat has gone to ruin our second favourite team, literally, just poisoning and ruining everything I love about football.
You might buy Eric Dyer though.
Hey,
you might buy Eric Dyer.
You might buy Eric Dyer. There's talk I saw he wanted to buy Hugo Lloris as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, well, to be fair, there's a couple, like he could take Dyer, potentially Lamela going back to Italian League, and those sort of things could be positive. But regardless, like you say, Roma is our Italian club, Forza Roma, but he's going
Forza Roma.
They're going to absolutely ruin them. Io sono l'uomo. That means I am the man. So boys. But no, he's gone over there. He's going to destroy them. So I'll ignore Roma for a bit. But they've been dead for a while, so fair enough. The last one was kind of the finish of the season that kind of led into the cup final. But I'll tell you what, I said the end of the season was kind of nice. Like, Bale was playing, Bale was absolutely burying goals, and again compounded the idea of what we're doing. Mourinho, why after the Arsenal game when everyone played bad did he go again? This is the player I'm blaming for it. It's Gareth Bale. He's not playing now. And then every now and then go 10 minutes to go save us, Bale. Go save us, please. Like, ridiculous. and then Mason just made him look like a fool. I know he obviously lost the cup final. He wasn't ready for that. It was going to always be completely unlikely with much weaker sides.
That ridiculous stat that was so unnecessary that they put up of like get games as managers, and like Pep's was like hundreds and hundreds, and Ryan Mason's was 2 or whatever it was. Or no, it was 1, wasn't it? It was the first. The cup final was the cup final his first game.
Percentage is 100% for Mason. He won. Beat Southampton.
That was it. Yeah, second game.
That was mentally. Talk about Bale. Like when we sold Bale, obviously we bought Lamella and all the other players stuff we bought in. Did you boys see a couple of little stats for you? You know that in the 7 years that Lamella's played in Premier League, Gareth Bale has scored more goals in the Premier League than he has. So basically, Bale scored more goals this season in the league than Lamella has since we signed him, and that in the season just gone, Lamella, Son, and Kane scored the most goals as a trio of players ever in the Premier League.
Yeah, I saw this. I did.
No, so the most goal involvement, so goals out.
The most goals and assists of any Premier League trio ever. Which
and we finished 7th.
On the thing you're saying about Mourinho, like blaming people, did you see the quote from Lukaku? I know we'll probably talk about Conte in a minute, but did you see the quote from Lukaku about Conte? No. He said, like, he's the reason I've got to the level I'm at. When he comes out when he kills me, it's not just for the sake of killing me. It's to make me a better player and a better person. And I saw that and I was like, that's a wicked quote, because you feel with Mourinho, he does it for the sake of killing somebody, not to try and necessarily make him better. Whereas with Conte, I don't know, it just feels like he's doing something different. But we'll go on to that in a minute.
Conte is the modern Mourinho. Yeah. He is similar to
He learns to keep up with time.
Yeah, but also completely different in so many other ways as well.
Have you always seen as well in sort of like the Euro build-up that Mourinho's called out Bale again? Did you see that? Mourinho basically said, they said about Gareth Bale in Wales and Ramsey in Wales. And he was like, well, unfortunately, like Ramsey's not really played this season. And in terms of the big games, has Gareth Bale made an impact for Spurs? Or he was like, he's not made any impact in any big games for Spurs this season, so you've got to question him a little bit. Or something like that. I was just like, the audacity of the man. You didn't frigging play him. Yeah. But, you know, he's alluding to the Zagreb game, the Arsenal game, that Bale was crapping. But so was a lot of other people, but that was pretty much last game.
Jose, you literally lost to a man who was in prison. Like, how did you even do that? Yeah. It's mental.
Yeah, but that just summed up Mourinho. And then I think the France guy got involved as well, saying that France should walk the World Cup. And he replied saying, well, I thought Mourinho Spurs should have done better than they did, and they finished 7th. Or something like that, and just slagged him off. I think, unfortunately, Mourinho is kind of done in terms of respect for people now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's like a boxer. It's like a boxer who should have retired, and he keeps getting back in the ring and getting knocked out by nobodies. Yeah.